Okay, got another one to work on today. This is a combo unit. I'm spoiling the fun here, aren't I? TV VCR combination. Let's see if we can do anything with this one, or is it beyond repair? Let's find out. Okay, I got this little Citizen combo TV VCR 14-inch CRT. We try to save these once in a while because one, they've got an AV input so they can be used with other analog devices, but they've got the VCR built in. And for some time, some people like to collect these units just because they're a convenient way. If you've got a VHS tape that you want to play, you can just haul this out of the closet, plug the tape right into it and watch it right there. You don't have to fiddle fart around with connecting anything to the TV, which you would generally have to do if you're dealing with a conventional VCR. A lot of times people don't want to do that. They just want to have a small set for the odd tape that they might want to play that they haven't converted over. This one here, the tuner is not working. I've got it connected to my in-house cable, but I did a search of the channels and nothing came up. I don't even have the remote for this, but I did do a search for it. When you first power this thing up, it goes through the auto programming and it found no channels. Which really isn't a big deal because something like this, chances are you're not going to be receiving analog signals on it anyway, unless you have another analog source like a VCR or something, and this has got it built in. But it does have the built-in VCR, but next time it's going to play. The first twice I tried this without putting a tape into it, it didn't do anything. Okay, it's not going to play anyway. So we got to take it apart. I'm going to think it's probably the mode encoder switch is dirty on this. Okay, here we go. Now it's going to jam the tape. There, so this does have a problem. So you can take this one apart and make a repair video for it. Because the mechanism is jamming and the tuner doesn't work. So let's take it apart. Now this unit is made by Funi. It says so right here. Of course it's Funi because they were one of the last companies to make VCRs. Well, they were the last company to make VCRs. And they did it up until actually quite recently. I think the last VCR rolled out of their factory, I think it was 2016. Believe it or not, I mean, VHS has been totally obsolete for at least 10 years, but they were still making VCRs up until, about 4 years ago, as of the production of this video. Which seems incredible that they would have made them this long, but they did, apparently. So on this set here, we've got a high voltage board up here. This is our horizontal deflection, I think vertical deflection as well. Yeah, this is our deflection board, and high voltage is up on this board. Don't worry, it's not plugged in. We have a power supply board on here, a separate power supply, and then the main video board is here. Tuner is here, and of course the video deck is right over there. And this one appears to be held in by, I think this is held in by at least one screw. I think there's one screw that holds this whole chassis in, so let's just remove it. This is where the extra long screwdriver comes in handy. There we go, one screw. Ah, there's a spider in here, and he's alive. There's a spider running around in here. You'll probably see him running out of this thing in a minute because he just jumped out from below the speaker. Where is he? There he goes. Right down there. Watch him. He's going to jump out. There he goes, onto the floor. And he's wherever he's taking off to now. But hopefully he won't run into the house. I hope that actually happens because I really want to see my daughter have a panic attack. She's got a bit of a fear of spiders, arachnophobia. And mice won't bother her. She sees a spider and she'll be climbing the walls. It's like a guy that I went to school with. He was terrified of spiders. It was funny because we used to give him a bad time about this. he would go to extremes. Like if there was a spider anywhere around, he'd spot it, and he'd go and get the vacuum cleaner with the extension hose and suck the spider up into the vacuum cleaner and leave it run for several minutes to make sure that that spider actually ended up in the bag. And then even if it was a brand new bag, he'd shut it off and take the bag out and take it outside and throw it out and put a new bag in, even if it was a brand new bag, because it had one spider in it. It was funny. We used to give him a bad time about his fear of spiders. The rest of it's like, spider, big deal. Unless it's something huge like a tarantula or a black widow. Okay, so let's get this deck out of here. This is held in place by a couple of screws. There's 4 of them. And then the deck should lift out. I want to get to the mode encoder switch, which is going to live under here, I think, on this one. Yeah, I can see it. So let's get out those 4 screws here. We'll try to do this without busting the picture tube. For Canada only. A warning for Canada only. For continued safety, replace safety critical components only with manufacturer's recommended parts. Refer to service literature. So in other words, if you're not in Canada, you can just use any parts. You can just change anything out and put in non-safety parts. But in Canada, you got to use those correct parts. Okay, this should, I think it's going to pop out. Everything should pop out on the site. Where am I missing? Oh, there's another screw. There's another screw right down through here, and that's why there's a hole in this shield, just to make it easy to service. This thing should lift out. And there comes out the deck. Nice, huh? Just plugs in. Love it. Okay, so on here we've got, should clean off these little sensors. These are the tape end sensors. Rewind, forward, and the LED that shines a light up through the middle of the tape to operate the end sensors. It's got a couple little pin switches down here, which I should probably clean, and there's another infrared sensor over here, and that one I believe shines into the tape hubs. Yeah, so one shines into here, and actually this is a photo transistor, this one. So the main emitters here, these are photo transistors over here. This one here, if we look at the bottom of the deck here, in amongst all the dust, that shines onto this little clear plastic. Let's zoom the camera in a bit so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So that shines into this little clear plastic light pipe, and one side of that light pipe goes up into the tape where it shines left and right to hit the end detectors. The other one, light pipe, brings a portion of the light along this way, and here's a little photo interrupter. And as the reels turn, as you can see what happens, this turns and it blocks the light getting into this side of the light pipe. So when this is open, light can shine from the light pipe through the opening into this little piece of plastic, and then it travels along here and it shines back down through this, so the light is actually exiting here, going back down towards the circuit board, and that is detected by this little detector here, which is why it's in behind this little black piece of rubber, so that light from the emitter, from the LED, doesn't make it straight across to here. So it's shadowing, it's creating a shadow, so that the light from this will shine out, shines up through that light tower into the tape, where it's projected across the tape, and when the tape reaches the end, the clear leader will allow the light to either get onto this is for rewind, and for forward it's the sensor over here. But of course, while the tape is playing, that other intermittent light pulse is going to be passed or blocked by that gear, which will create an on-off scenario for this little detector. So if the machine goes into play and stops after 5 seconds or so, it's going to probably be this LED, because this will fail. This is just an infrared LED. It shines out a bright infrared light source, and if it gets too weak, first of all, it won't detect the end of the tapes, but secondly, it'll stop playing if it's not strong enough to activate this. But typically, if it's that weak that it won't activate this one, it also won't activate the other two. Anyway, that's how that part works. We're just going to push this aside for now so that I can bring the deck back. Here's our encoder switch. And this is what I want to clean here. So we got our linear encoder. As you can see, there's only 2 wires on this one that connects it to the board. And what they've got over here is they've got a series of resistors. So as that encoder switch turns, it's connecting and disconnecting different values of resistors. So it's basically taking all the outputs from the switch, which in this case there looks like there'd be 1, 2, 3, I guess there's 4, 5 different values. 5 or 6 different values. Is that right? No, 5. Well, a total of 6. Total of 6 values. So there's 5 resistors. So it will ground through the different resistors, anything from 0 ohms to whatever the resistance values of these different resistors are. We'll apply that resistance value across these wires, and it is read by decoding the voltage. Basically, it's a voltage divider. So the voltage arrives at the input to the CPU. If it's 12 volts, then it's open. If it's 10 volts, or 8 volts, or 6 volts, or 4 volts, or 2 volts, those are the different states that appear. Remove the screw. That's important that I get this back in the same place as it starts. Fortunately, that's not a problem because this is keyed. So it's only going to go on in one direction, and it's going to be correct. Once I've got it removed from the cam gear, I can just squeeze the pins together here. We'll pop apart the switch, and we can see that it is very clean. No wonder this thing doesn't work. Let's get some cleaner in there. I'm going to use some deoxit, just in a liquid form, to wipe down the contacts on this one. So I'm going to use deoxit 100, D100L, just because this stuff's easier to control. I'm not wasting a bunch of spray. Put a couple drops on here. You can see right away what's coming off this, all this oxidation. I would have to say that this VCR was made when they were still serviceable, really serviceable. It was shortly after this that they became very difficult to work on, just because of the design. I'm just using the applicator here mainly to scratch into the surface and break some of the oxide away, but I'm not gonna wipe it anymore. It should be clean enough now Just leaving a base coating on there to keep it clean. We'll do the same for these. I'll put a little bit on each of these, and then we'll wipe it and put it back together. Maybe give a bit more tension. We will clean the heads on this thing before putting it all back together as well. The screw goes in to hold the switch in place. There. That has the mode switch clear. There, that has the mode switch clean. Also on here is this is a Hall effect sensor. It's used for speed detection, so be sure you keep things that are hot, like soldering irons, away from the edge of this flywheel, because this is encoded with a magnetic pulse that is read by this Hall effect sensor to determine the speed of the motor. And I think that's probably all I need to deal with on this. Everything else looks to be in good shape. It's well lubricated. It does not look like this unit's really had that much use, which doesn't surprise me, because a lot of these combo units never saw a lot of use. You know, they were bought as you know, for kids' rooms or for a kitchen. And a lot of them were used as a TV, but not so much as a VCR. It was just kind of, people bought them because, hey, it's got a VCR built in. If I ever need to play a tape, I've got the ability. And of course today, as there are no more VCRs or CRT TVs around, they are enjoyed by collectors that just like to hang on to the old technology, just because it's now a collectible thing, right? It's not that it's any better than anything new. It's just they don't make them anymore, and they're basically all like museum pieces now. And for whatever reason, people like to collect old technology. This is only a 2-head machine. I'm just going to get myself a piece of paper so that I can clean this. Good enough. Piece of paper, some alcohol. Stuff's like getting hard to get now with this whole coronavirus. Although I did recently acquire a brand new bottle, so I've got lots. But it's getting a little bit more difficult to source. Okay, paper up against the side of the head drum and then just turn. Counterclockwise, as that's the direction that the head turns. Yeah, we got some dirt off of it. We'll do the same for the audio head and the rest of the transport on this. And then I'm going to get my air gun and blow all the dust out of it. And blow all the dust back onto the heads that I just cleaned. One thing you may have noticed on this set is the placement of the high voltage. With that separate circuit board that sits up at the side of the tube as opposed to being on the main board like a lot of the other ones. They had all the electronics on the main board, and this one here has it separate, and there's a reason for that, and that's to move the high voltage and the high pulses, the high frequency pulses for the yoke as far away from the head as possible to minimize interference, even though they got shielding on here. So Funi weren't as bad as what people would have expected them to be. You know, it's here people say, oh, Funi VCRs were garbage. And actually, I disagree. I think Funi probably had one of the better, more reliable VCRs on the market. After all, they were the largest manufacturer of VCRs in the world. You know, I'm going to take this head cleaning wheel that's deteriorated because the foam is shot completely. But in reality, Funi actually were the largest manufacturer of VCRs in the world. They made more VCRs. They made them for many, many other companies. And with the exception of the last series of them, they're generally fairly easy to service. The last generation, of course, they became the stamp them out by machine, and no thought was given to service them. These plugs, for example, to take the chassis out cost too much, so they started soldering stuff in. A prime example is that Toshiba combo unit that I have, which incidentally, now that it's fixed, that combo DVD recorder, VHS machine DVD recorder, the unit has a very good picture. And all that went wrong with it was the mode switch. It was just a pitta, as they say, a pain in the ass to get it apart, to clean the mode switch. But that machine I use all the time. I'm using that now for VHS to DVD as a standalone machine. Just have it plugged into a little TV, and when people bring me VHS tapes to transfer onto DVD, I just throw them into that machine. One box solution. Okay, slide the chassis back in. I noticed that the cassette compartment, or the cassette, is midway loaded, so the lever that opens the door is up, so I got to lift the cassette door up so that I can put it into place without it jamming. It just drops in like that. Plug in the degaussing coil and plug in the TV and see what it does. And there we go. Mechanism returned to normal. Let's try playing a tape on it now while it's apart. Let's turn it on first of all. See whether it'll go through the programming mode again, which it will. For auto program, I'm going to press play, and I'm going to press the fast forward to go through auto set. To say this tuner does not appear to be working. Give it a tap there and see what happens. Does not appear to be tuning in anything. It might be in the wrong mode, which I can't change because, you know, it's in the wrong mode. Oh, it did pick up something there. What? Still no picture. Maybe the heads are buggered up on this thing. Okay, let's get a close-up of the heads. There's one head. a piece of wire hanging out of that head? It looks like the wire, yeah, that head is shot. You can see a piece of wire. This head is broken. So this thing can go in the garbage. Now, give it away. I'll give this thing away as a gaming for old video games. This VCR is foobar. The head is shot. You can see it. It's broken. Somebody got their paws in there before I did. Remember when I first started the video, I tried to play a tape and it was all snowy? Well, that's the reason why it was all snowy. It wasn't that the head was dirty, it was the head was broken. You can see it right there. See the head? Now this is what it's supposed to look like. See the difference? You can actually see the two coils of wire on either side of the head. And on this one, it's broken. That's what happens when people get in there with Q-tips to try and clean the heads. So unfortunately, this little old TV is really only going to be useful for one thing, and that's using it as a monitor. About all these things are good for. I'll adjust the brightness up a bit on here to make it actually usable. We'll do that with the screen control on the side of it, on the transformer here. One of these is screen, and one of them is focus, and the other one will be a screen control. There we go. Well, all this one's good for now. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one real soon.